Hi, I'm Edward Funk. This is podcast number 51. It's titled 14-Year-Old Loretta Young Tortured by Maniacal Director. Now, the source material for these current podcasts is Behind the Door, the Real Story of Loretta Young. And it's available as a paper book, an ebook, and now an audiobook. So hope you drop everything you're doing and rush out and buy one. Okay. Casting director Mervyn Leroy thought Loretta would do nicely for a bit part in a movie Naughty But Nice. She'd have two words to say, and since it was a silent picture, it wouldn't make any difference what her voice sounded like. But mouthing those two words made it a bit part, which was a step higher than a walk-on. And more importantly, this film led to a contract at First National Studios. Now, as for salary, Loretta held out for what the same amount her sister Sally was getting at Paramount. And her older sister, Polly Ann, recalled the first time Loretta came home with her weekly contract check, she handed it to Mom and said, "Look, Mom, look." And Mom said, "Oh, what is this? A child making $50 a week?" Mom just couldn't get over it. She was so happy. This became the regular pattern. Loretta gave whatever money she earned to Mom to handle unquestionably. Now, Loretta would go to the portrait gallery and pose for pictures on the days she wasn't working on the set. She emulated Corinne Griffith, First National Studios' resident beauty and heroine, and Loretta would ask the hairdresser to do her hair just like Miss Griffith. She also learned to pose like her by keeping her lips slightly parted. After pretending to be Corinne Griffith for 6 months, Loretta recalled a meeting with studio head Hal Rocket. I went into his office and he had a bunch of my pictures on his desk. He said to me, "I've had these sent over because I don't want to see one more picture of you trying to look like Corinne Griffith. We already have Corinne Griffith here with this studio. You can't be a second anything." I didn't quite believe it, but I didn't pose any more like Corinne Griffith because I knew he'd see the pictures and I would get pulled out again. But that's the name of the movie star game. Originality. Be oneself at all costs. Now, I've thought about this myself a little bit. Take the big stars, Bette Davis, Marilyn Monroe, Cary Grant, John Wayne. No matter what role they're playing, you're always aware they're Betty, Marilyn, Cary, and John. So, and if you've seen as many Loretta pictures as I have, which I'm sure you haven't, but you always know that's Loretta Young on the screen as well. Now, Colleen Moore, who had been a big star during the silent days, left First National Studios, and Loretta decided to move her things into the vacant star dressing room. Now, her logic was that by moving into the star dressing room, she'd be a star. Now, after a few days, she was once again summoned by Mr. Rocket, the studio head. Loretta recalled. In a very understanding voice, he said, "Loretta, I'm fully confident that someday you're going to be a very important star. But you're not there yet, and for the time being, I'm going to have to ask you to take your things back to the dressing room that you were sharing with the other contract players or stock players." Now, these were silent movie days, and Loretta remembered the process is really pretty simple. You didn't have a script. You really didn't know anything. The director would say, "Now, you walk into the room and you go over there and you stand by that chair, and that man will come into the door, and you look at him and you like him a lot. And then he'll come over to you and probably put his arm around you, and you will be shy, and then you'll pull away from him. Now, do you think you can do that?" Wait a second. Well, Loretta's reply, well, yes. The mood music added to the ease of the experience. There always had a little organ and a violin or maybe guitar, and they played music all day long. Again, this is the silent films. Loretta played star Estelle Taylor's daughter in The Whip Woman. The role wasn't much, but it caught the attention of the temperamental director, Herbert Brennan. He was casting Laugh Clown Laugh at MGM, a Lon Chaney vehicle about a sad clown who falls in love with a young girl only to lose her to a younger man. Brennan considered 47 young actresses, and then he chose Loretta. She recalled him telling her, your legs can be padded, likewise your body. It's your eyes that are getting you this part. Loretta was just 14 years old when she was selected to play the leading lady role at this prestigious studio like MGM. It was a leapfrog jump to her objective of becoming a movie star, but there was a big price to pay. Director Herbert Brennan. Loretta recalled he'd had a nervous breakdown and had been in a sanitarium, but since he had just done Peter Pan and it was a big hit, that made him a hot shot, no matter whether you're crazy or not. He made my life miserable. He would tell the entire company to sit down, and then he would stand me up and go on a tirade. Every day after lunch, I'd get this bawling out, and for no reason at all. His assistant director had said to me, now, he doesn't like crybabies, so no matter what, don't cry. So I wouldn't cry. I would just gulp it down. The worst part was that what he would tell me I was terrible, I was believing him. Now, Loretta's sister Polly Ann was under a 6-month stock contract at MGM. At the time, she remembered it was late in the day, and I went over to the set where Loretta was working, and she saw me and came running up. Oh, I'm so glad to see you, Paul. The director is so mean to me. Loretta then quoted, you can't do anything right. I should have had your sister Pollyanna instead of you. Now, Pollyanna thought about that, and she thought it was just so cruel. So I would go over there as often as I could, just to give her support. She would just shake before she'd go on the set to work. Now, Loretta expanded on why her fears of Brennan were well-founded. One day, apparently, I wasn't moving quickly enough, and he threw one of those canvas director's chairs at me. If he'd hit me, he could have killed me. Everyone else was horrified, but they were also scared to death of him. He would pick on one person mercilessly, and then were all afraid that he'd switch from me to them. Another day, we were filming on location, some botanical gardens in Pasadena, and I was supposed to climb over this fence that was covered with greenery. It had barbed wire under the greenery. He couldn't see it, but I could. I kept saying, this barbed wire hurts. He said, no, just keep climbing, just keep going up. My legs were a mess. They were bleeding, but I kept climbing because I was just so frightened of him. Another day, we were in a theater on the back lot at Metro, and it held 1,000 people, all extras. The scene centered on me walking a tightrope across the stage. Now, what everyone is afraid of about walking a tightrope, besides falling off, is that when the wire rolls, and if you don't roll with it, it will roll against you and cut your feet. Now, the camera was way in back of the theater, and Brennan came up to the stage and said, now, Loretta, all you have to do is walk into the stage, take a bow, and go up and stand with a parasol, and I will cut to a double to go across the line. So anyway, finally I got up there and I stopped, and he yells, you're spoiling my shot, walk across the wire. I looked down. All right, I said to myself. So I'm walking across the wire, and I was doing fine until I looked down on the first rows, and there were a couple extras I'd worked with before. And this one woman had this horrified look on her face. That scared me, and I lost my balance and fell. Now the stage was wood, and as I slid across it, the splinters dug into my legs. The whole audience was appalled. Brennan came tearfully running down the aisle. Oh, my little star. Oh, what have I done? I've injured my little star. I remember thinking, oh, shut up. You're a mean, nasty man. You really don't care at all. Now, Brennan's torment over Loretta ended the day when star Lon Chaney returned to the set unexpectedly and witnessed the cruelty. Loretta recalled, from then on, Lon Chaney would not leave the set when I was working, and Brennan pulled back. Lon Chaney was wonderful to me. If I couldn't get it on the first or second take, he'd come up behind me and say, try this or try that. Chaney, the renowned genius at body makeup, personally designed the padding to convert Loretta from a skinny teenager to a shapely leading lady. Laugh Clown Laugh did well at the box office. Now, as far as the leading lady's contribution, variety pronounced, Loretta Young was a rather pale personality for the principal feminine role. Nevertheless, Laugh Clown Laugh established Loretta as a leading lady. Loretta reflected, from then on, I stayed in leads. It wasn't because I was a better actress than some of the other girls that were under contract, but I looked like a leading lady. I was delicate looking, and that's what they thought women should look like in those days: slender, soft, and vulnerable. Thanks.